Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Falcon Punchcast. As always, it is I, your host, Mr. Falcon Punch, aka Shaheen, and joining me is my co-host, Darth Messiah, aka Hamza.
Hello, I am the mob to Shaheen's Reagan.
All right, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you watched our anime top 10 video, you know I gave Hamza some homework and he actually did it. I was very surprised. He watched Mob Psycho.
Yeah, I watched Mob Psycho all 3 seasons. We're not going to mention it too much here because, again, this is like technically a manga episode. But short answer, I loved it. One of my favorites now. And I can't wait to talk about it in a future episode. So yeah, like that. And I forgot that I needed to mention a duo. And I was like, oh, fuck. What have I seen recently that I can... It's like, this is the only thing that's coming up to mind.
All right. Nice. So, you know, going off of that, you know, a couple podcasts ago, we did our top 10 favorite anime series. So now we're going to follow it up with top 10 favorite manga series. Now, last time Hamza started, but this time we're going to switch things up. I'm going to start. And in the comments, don't forget to say who had the better taste.
Oh, okay.
No one did it in the anime one, so I'm going to mention it on top this time. I want to know who had the better fucking taste in manga.
I mean, yours is more egos. Yours is like way more varied. Mine is like I don't even like. I only 50% believe in mine. So
okay, well, see, yours is because we put you on the spot to kind of like slapdash one together. But when you say mine is varied, mine is like pretty much all shonen. And I think like 5 of them are from like Jump. So like I'm a pretty simple guy.
But they're across like different eras, they're different types of shonen.
That's true.
5 of them are Jump though. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, 5 of them are Jump. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm a pretty I love me some Jump. But our first manga on my list is you guys already know. It's Dorohedoro, which is not a Jump manga. I think like the only seinen I have technically, or maybe one of them is also seinen. But yeah, Dorohedoro, you already know. Long time ago, back when I used to do proper channel intros for myself, you know, when I was like, it's your boy, Mr.FalconPunch, YouTube's #1 Dorohedoro fanboy and the underrated king. I think I fucked it up. I think it was like underrated king and YouTube's stuff. Anyways, a lot of people have gone into Dorohedoro because of me. Hamza,
I remember. It was underrated king recommendation master.
Oh yeah, I forgot the recommendation master part. Damn, that's like a key identity of mine. Shit. Thank you for remembering. I'm jaded, man. I've been in this shit for too long. I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, see, I care about your channel more than you. So,
listen, man. Again, I've been at this shit for like 10 years. I only have 17,000 subscribers to show for it. I love you all, by the way. But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't help myself. I go on a lot of hiatuses, and then out of nowhere, I'm like, what if I become a podcast guy? I mean, don't worry, guys. I'm still working on videos. It's hard to do when you have family, friends, and a job all also vibing for your attention.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough.
And also, like, the only reason why we started this podcast is because we have these weekly 2, 3 hour, 4 hour phone calls anyway. So it's like, let's just record it and make it more structured and give people our opinions because we clearly have good taste.
Exactly. And see, we're unique. We're not the average just 2 white guys on the internet. You know, we're a little diverse.
Yeah. Shaheen is getting DI money. I want that on the record.
You know, we got a half Mexican, a half Persian, and a Pakistani guy. Let's go.
Soon to be Canadian, yeah.
Soon to be Canadian, yeah. But anyways, going back to Dorohedoro, I mean, I've made countless videos on it, so like, really, there isn't that much I could say without repeating myself. I just love the story. I love Kyu Hayashida's art style. It's so dirty, but like inject into my veins, I'll probably get some sort of horrible disease. But I just love it so much. I love all the fucked up little creatures she makes. I love how the story is this weird conglomeration of like murder, mystery, fantasy, magic, sci-fi, action, adventure. It's
Slice of
got it
life a little
all.
bit. Yeah.
Slice of life comedy,
Yeah.
hints of romance, not really, but you know, if you're like a shipper, you definitely have a bunch of ships to choose from. It has everything. It is a manga specifically made for me. It has everything I wanted, and even things I didn't know I wanted. Like I didn't know I wanted women that could snap me in half. And then Doro
Oh, this is where
woke
that
me up.
started?
Hell yeah, brother. I was like, forgot what grade I was, but I for sure I was in high school. And I'm like, I didn't know a woman could get that. I know that's really stupid to say, but I'm like, I didn't know they could get that buff. And like, Noi activated something. I'm like, damn.
I thought it was the girl from Jeed.
No, I mean, I was into Dora Hedora way before that.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So yeah, no, Q Hayashida's a real one out there. But
Yeah.
you know, I love the series to death. I think Q Hayashida deserves way more love than she gets. I mean, thankfully, over the years, she's definitely gotten that respect.
Especially with the anime coming out. Yeah.
Exactly. Season 2's coming, thank God. Because like Mappa was just like, we're gonna keep on doing shit. I'm like, Mappa, go back. Either you're making another Garo anime, or you're making another Dorohedoro season. And I guess Chainsaw Man. After that, don't pick up anything else. Stop it. Focus on what you got.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. Shaheen's personal journey with Dorohedoro has been amazing. His surrounding journey of this manga, recommending it to friends, including me, has been insufferable for him.
Oh yeah, see, it's just nonstop pain. Either I recommend it to them, and then without telling me, they're like, "I finished it." I'm like, "Did you like it?" They're like, "Yeah." The conversation ends. I get no satisfaction, no climax. I'm not jerked off, and they tell me about the whole thing. I don't get the WhatsApp chat where they're like guiding me through their journey. I get none of that. Or in Hamza's case, which is probably more insufferable. Don't worry, bro. I'll read the manga. I'm reading the manga. It's pretty good. I'm putting it on hold. I'm reading Hawkman or some shit from DC. I legit think last time it's like, I'm reading a Hawk World. And way back in the day, it was before I was into comics. I'm like, why the fuck are you reading a Hawk World? Who gives a shit? Now I'm into comics. I'm like, okay, I kind of give a shit a little bit. I can't wait to read that myself one day. But put that on hold. And then you come back to it. And then again, we've talked about it on previous podcasts. But this is the Hamza specialty, the classic. Put something on hold, come back to it. I forgot. I have to restart it from the beginning. And he's done this to me twice. He has edged me on Dorohedoro.
Yeah, so the first time I read Dorohedoro, I stopped at some point. I don't remember where. I literally came back. I think it was probably around like the middle. And then so I started again. This time it got like really close to the end. Like I had like 4 volumes left. But again, for some reason, I don't remember. Maybe it was Hawkworld. I don't know. It was put on hold. But then life happened and like one thing led to another. I like moved on. Now it's like to the point where like I tried going back to it and I'm like, wait, what's the rules again? What's the magic system? Why is there a devil inside their head? What does that signify? What is that? I was like, and then
what does that signify? I don't even think Q Ishida knew what that signified. It's like, I don't know. It's just fucking cool, I guess. I don't know.
What is that like? What does that do to your like whatever? Like, there's something about it. Like, and then it's like, oh, and then I have to like tell Shaheen like, oh yeah, I gotta start again.
And see, it's not just Dorohedoro. He's done this with me constantly. I feel like there's a couple Toku series, like most recently Ultraman Z, where just recently he's just like, I gotta start from the beginning.
Yeah, so Ultraman Z I have to start from the beginning again, and Metalder I have to start from the beginning again.
Oh god, fucking for the longest time he's like, don't worry, I remembered. Don't worry, I remember it.
That was like a month, like a few months ago. Now it's like a few months after. Now it's like now it's like past the point of like remember.
It's painful. Oh no, the thing is with Ultraman Z, because like you usually wait until it finishes and then you wait for a movie, but Z because of COVID didn't get a movie. I'm like, you could just watch it now. It's on YouTube. Been waiting since fucking 24 years. I remember watching episode 1 live. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for Hamza to watch this. And he's like, I'll wait for it to finish. I'm like, okay, that's fair, my guy. I'll just enjoy the weekly hype. Yeah. And then that's what happened. So it's sometimes it's a bit painful But
Yeah, but I do agree with Shaheen. Like, it's the art is like really different. Like, you're not going to see art like this from any other mangaka. I don't think. It's really gritty. I love the magic system in this. The characters in this are awesome. The world building is so fascinating. It's so gothic, and like messed up and dirty. And like, yeah, like this is definitely one to check out. And like, if you've like seen the anime, I don't. I honestly think this is one you have to read the manga. It's like, surprisingly enough, it's like, if Berserk is one like no anime can match it, I think Dorodoro is the other one that like can also be mentioned the same character where like it has to be read. You can't like watching it is not going to give you the same experience.
I've come
Is
around
that a
on the
hot
anime.
take? I don't know. I feel like it's a hot take.
I don't know. I feel there's some people. I remember a lot of people in the beginning didn't want to give it too much like credit or love because of the CG. But honestly, it's not that bad. It could have been so much worse. I feel Mappa did a pretty good job in blending it, and there was love put into the production. They gave it different endings, kind of way before they did that with Chainsaw Man. They gave it different endings. There was a clear love for Dorohedoro. Like, there's a really good kind of Easter egg where the characters are like in a store and they're looking through records, and one of the characters pulls out this record and they're like reading all the titles on it. And that is a reference to the Dorohedoro manga soundtrack they did like years ago. There's like a manga soundtrack where they got a bunch of like these indie music artists to make like essentially music to listen to while reading Dorohedoro at the time, because it was way before the anime. So they reference that in the anime. So there was love and passion put into it. Initially, I was a bit put off by Dorohedoro because like reading it and especially seeing like Q Hayashida's color pages, like,
I love
which are
those
always
color
changing.
pages.
They're always like, sometimes they're spray painted, other times they're just using like blotches of a singular color. They're always really unique and dark and gritty. And the anime, it's a little bit brighter. The backgrounds are really good. The backgrounds totally live, but still a bit brighter than I would have liked. But overall, really good adaptation. I'm not like the Chainsaw Man fans where I'm just like, redo this anime. This anime sucks. Redo it. I'm trying to make a Kickstarter for a new anime, even though we got a really good adaptation that looks really. It could have been so much more worse. I still don't understand Chainsaw Man fans.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my second pick, Chainsaw Man. Which is
a spoiler, Regina. This is going to be breaking news. This I have to start from the beginning again as well.
I figured because, like, I know you read part 1, and then for a bit you were reading part 2.
Yeah, and then I made the same mistake I always do. It's like, I'll catch up when it's like there's like enough chapters. Which I did the same mistake I did for One Piece, and I've like suffered the same fate where it's like enough time passes where I'm like, wait, what? What happens? What are the rules? Yeah. What's the world in this? What's the characters like motivation? What happened? Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, when Chainsaw Man, is it going to end or no? Is there still a lot to go?
I mean, we're still in part 2. I don't know what Fujimoto's cooking. Is there going to be a part 3? Is part 2 the last one? I can't really tell, because with Fujimoto, can't really predict the guy sometimes.
True, but like, yeah, like I got to start from the beginning.
That makes sense.
This. But like, again, like, I mean, you go. This is your section, so yeah, you just like
right.
say. Like,
Chainsaw Man's a bit of a surprise for me because, and this may sound shocking to people that know me pretty well, especially after what I was just saying about Dorohedoro. Depending on the way Chainsaw Man wraps up, it may just overtake Dorohedoro.
Oh shit! This is a bombshell. I didn't even know this.
It may not be like it has everything I could ever want in a manga like Dorohedoro, because like Dorohedoro, it has dinosaurs, it has magic, it has world building, it has everything I could ever want. But there's something magical about Chainsaw Man. There hasn't been a series that I've constantly thought about, anticipated, just have a bunch of just random thoughts, daydream about, as much as I have with like Chainsaw Man. I think the closest manga that I ever got to that point was like One Piece, when I was getting into One Piece, like before I caught up. Because like when I was getting into One Piece, it was like my everything. Chainsaw Man is almost like that. Like, I think about it every day. I look forward to the chapters. I just love everything about it. The series is fantastic. You know, fuck the haters that are being like part 2 fell off. I'm like, no.
I think you like, what do you call them? Like what? Like fake Saw fans?
Fake
What is
Saw
the?
fan. Well, yeah. I call them fake Saw fans, which is also it's not an original joke because there's also like this character in part 2 that people call Fake Saw Man. So
okay.
I kind of got it from there. But it's just it's like one of those mangas right now where it's kind of, I don't think it's as bad as like Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer, where if you're like, oh, this is my favorite manga, and it's like, oh, it's mid. But like, because Chainsaw Man exploded and like people have weirdly turned against the anime. Because when the anime came out, there's a couple people that had problems with it, but for the most part, everyone loved it. Everyone was talking about it. And then it was like, as soon as it ended, people just started coming out of the woodwork, just being like, yo, fuck that adaptation. What the fuck were they thinking? Mappa needs to let go of the rights for Chainsaw Man. Get the fuck out of here. And then, yeah, so, I don't know. I love Chainsaw Man. I love Tatsuki Fujimoto. I wholeheartedly believe he's going to go down in history as, like, one of the best from his generation of mangaka. You know, a lot of his assistants have gone to do equally amazing things. One of them we're actually going to see later on in my list. But it's a series I simply got into because I saw the cover. I'm like, that is a dude with a chainsaw for a face. I need to read it. And it proved to be so much more than that. I mean, of course, a lot of my personal appeal comes from the fact that it's a dude with a fucking chainsaw for a face. And you know me, I love my monster designs. And again, it's a dude with a fucking chainsaw for a face. But, you know, I ended up staying for this emotional story that is taking every sort of twist and turn imaginable. Every time I think, I have a good feeling, I know where this is going, Fujimoto's like, ha, psych, I got you, bitch. And I'm like, Fujimoto, you've done it once again. There's a lot of people that are kind of hating Fujimoto because he constantly tortures his character. And especially Denji. Denji, especially in part 2, cannot catch a fucking
I've never understood that criticism. There was even a comic book creator who got that same criticism where he was writing the Champions series. His name is Jim Zub. He was writing Champions because he took it over from another writer. And he was putting through the characters are young. They're like the Teen Titans of Marvel. And they're
okay. I've never heard of them. Oh, actually no, I know who they are. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they were being put through like the grind, or like a lot of like bad shit was happening to them, and he was very confused because a lot of fans were complaining to him. He's like, "What are you doing to the characters? You're making them go through such harsh, like, you know, the journeys and stuff." It's like, yeah, because like that they're heroes. They're gonna face like tough lives, and so again, like if it's all the way to like a grotesque level, that's when I understand. But if they're just going through like tough shit, it's like, well, too bad. They're like, that's how storytelling is made. It's all about conflict, not necessarily like punchy conflict. That's like just like any sort of conflict.
Yeah, character development and growth and all that.
Heroes
have to overcome.
Yeah,
that's what makes them a hero. Essentially, you know, they overcome shit.
Yeah. So I never understood that like complaint. Like if Denji is going through shit, like first of all, like judging on part 1, at least he's gonna come out the other side a better person, and like he needs to. I mean, that just sounds consistent with part 1. I don't know, like it's like if
again, that's where those fake Saw fans come in, because I'm like, I don't know what manga you're reading, but you know, Denji wasn't really like the happiest child in the first one either. He was
his testicles at the beginning. Yeah, one of his testicles. Like, yeah.
And even like once, you know, he got the life, you know, hunting devils and everything. He still like went through some shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, you know, but part 2, like, yeah, part 2, like, especially like recently, which I'm not going to spoil, but like, some shit happens, and a lot of people are freaking out and they're blaming Fujimoto from it. Meanwhile, I'm on the other hand, I'm just like, my boy's cooking. Everyone's like, Fujimoto, when I find you, I'll kill you. I'm just like, do your thing, man. I'm strapped in. I'm on this ride. I will stay on this ride until you're done, my man. Even if you like launch it off a cliff, I will remain seated. That's how much I trust you. So you may launch it off a cliff, but I know eventually I'm going to land smoothly. I have that much. I'm a Fujimoto dick rider. I'll admit it. I love this man. He's a little freak. And also, every time I'm like, I can't love this man anymore. Interview comes out. He's like, I love Dorohedoro. He's like, Chainsaw Man is like evil Fooly Cooley. I'm like, I can't love this man anymore.
So yeah, like I didn't connect it to like now I feel like a fake Saw fan, to be honest. I mean, it's not on my favorites, but I do love it and appreciate it. And I was like, because I started reading it when part one was over and part two was just about to come out when I finished it. In fact, Shaheen was jealous because like as soon as I finished it, I think that very next week part two started, like new chapter came out.
Yeah, no, I was waiting. I mean, like, luckily Fujimoto came out with those like one shots, but which are all very good. Can't wait for the look back movie.
Yeah. So then, like Denji's journey in this, like if it was like part one was like slice of life and then part two fucked up shit started happening, then yeah, I could understand why fans are pissed. But like, yeah, whatever you've said seems tonally consistent with part one, so I don't know like what the complaints
it's all
are
for the sake of story. Like, I don't really think Fujimoto's like maliciously just being like, haha, take that, Denji, fuck you, I hate you.
Yeah, like why even make a story like that? Like, but
I
yeah,
mean,
like
I'm pretty sure there's some people that do that shit, but we're not talking about those people.
Yeah, but like, yeah, Chainsaw Man is like it breakout hit. One of the probably you're right. I agree with you that like Fujimoto will go down in history as like, in my opinion, what Oda was to like late 90s, early 2000s. I think that's what at least Fujimoto is now for like the 2010s, I would say, or like 2020s. I don't know what. When did it start? 29.
Yeah, like it was probably like around 2019, 2018.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
I mean, we're on my anime list right now. Let me just fucking click on it and find out. Yeah, so it started in 2018.
Yeah, December 2018. Okay, fine. So yeah, so like late 2010s, 2020. So like, yeah, he like what Oda was to that generation. That's what Fujimoto is going to be to this, especially considering like, yeah, like his. I didn't even know this. I got this news from Shaheen that like, yeah, his Spy Family mangaka was an assistant for Fujimoto.
Yeah, the Spy Family guy, Hell's Paradise, Don Da Don. There's a new manga plus called Centuria, which is like a dark fantasy series. That's also another assistant in Fujimoto. Now, all these people, like assistants or, people, like, I don't want to give too much credit because of that, but I'm just saying a lot of greatness is surrounding him.
Yeah, Kagurabachi as well. Yeah.
Not, I don't know. He hasn't said anything, but that's a whole different podcast.
Like but, if you're, this is, I'm starting to sense a theme in your like top three at least. Yes.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention on top. I meant to say again with like my anime top 10, it's probably bound to change. But the top 4, those I think are pretty much locked in place. I mean, obviously Chainsaw Man's still ongoing, but like I said, I have total faith in Fujimoto. So if anything, it might fall down a space, but I don't think it's getting removed from the top 4. Unless Fujimoto really just shits the bed. But he hasn't missed for me yet. Everyone else may be saying, like, oh, this chapter was whack. I'm like, nope. This chapter was crack for me. I don't know. I was trying to rhyme. That should be a new series. Crack or whack.
Yeah, that could be a segment, I guess. Crack or whack?
Don't do drug, kids. Anyways. Moving on to my third one, which was probably where Hamza was saying there's a theme. We got Devilman.
Yeah.
Which, all-time classic. You guys know I love me some Go Nagai. Devilman, just like Chainsaw Man, is a series I think about every day. Not just because I have the classic collection in my my manga library that I look at every day, but it's a damn good series.
It's not available digitally. It so pisses me off, but like, fine, yeah.
You just gotta own that shit physically, man.
Wow.
It's a fucking tome. Have that tome of darkness in your house.
Listen. Just give it to me digitally so I can read it in guided view again. Like that's.
Bro, like I don't know how you'd read Go Nagai in guided view, but okay. I'm telling you, older mangaka just do not work in guided view. I mean, Kazuo Koike was kind of fine. Like, I think Lone Wolf and Cub actually looks pretty good in guided view. But like, I remember I tried reading Astro Boy in guided view. I'm like, this does not work. His panels are way too dynamic. It's just cutting into everything. Like, this is a mess. But anyways, going back to Devilman, all-time classic. It's another manga I've talked about pretty frequently on my channel. Just that classic story of a man turning into a devil, and kind of like Chainsaw Man, you know, a lot of fucked up shit happens to him, but you know, there's a point, there's a reason. The Crybaby anime, I'm still mixed on. I probably need to rewatch it, but the go-to is the original manga is my go-to. It is for me, still the definitive take on Devilman, even though Gonagai has kind of redrawn it essentially through the Gekiman series, which Gekiman, if you guys don't know, is kind of like Gonagai did this like manga series where he would just kind of retell the stories of how he came up with the concepts for a lot of his bigger series. So there's one for Devilman, there's one for Mazinger Z, and there's one for Cutie Honey. The Cutie Honey and Mazinger one, I don't think those are fully translated in English, but the Devilman one is. But after a while, like, I think the guy was just like, okay, I got all the behind the scenes stuff out of the way. I'm just gonna keep on redrawing scenes from the Devilman manga. And I love the guy's newer artwork. It looks really good, but I just have this soft spot for his like original, more cartoony 70s designs. It's goofy, but at the same time really cool. He got some of the craziest monster designs ever. Devilman, I think, is probably one of the greatest monster designs of all time. No matter what you do with it, like, I think all incarnations of Devilman look great, but of course the original manga version is, you know, probably one of the best. That or the Cyborg 009 crossover, but that's like a completely different beast. But it's a dark, action-packed superhero series with a really dark and depressing ending that kind of gets expanded upon on some other Gonagai material like Violence Jack, but I haven't read that. Violence Jack is kind of like an unofficial sequel, or I guess official sequel. But when I was reading Violence Jack, it barely got to that point. And then there's also plenty of like Devilman sequels and spin-offs that have come since, like Devilman G, Devilman versus Hades, Devil Knight, which I think is a direct sequel to. It's kind of weird. The guy is like one of those classic mangaka that his work has been, you know, constantly had spin-offs and remakes and redos. You know, he's one of my favorite people in the industry, but Devilman, I think, is probably one of his best works.
Yeah, for me, I did not know this existed. This was you were the recommendation master. You recommended this to me in uni, I believe. Yeah, we were still in uni. Yeah, because like Devilman Crybaby was about to come out, and you were like, "Yeah, go read the manga. It's very short." And you mentioned like some things about it. So like I went and I did read it, scanned, unfortunately.
Because that was the Classics collection didn't even exist.
It didn't even exist. Yeah, that was like, so you had to. The scans were the only like way to read it, and like, yeah, I really loved it. I haven't read it since, and I haven't thought about it since, which is like, I mean, it's not in my favorites, it's in yours, but it's like, still, like, I did appreciate what I did read, and like, yeah, I have mixed feelings on the Crybaby anime. I think you and I discussed it privately, not on.
Oh yeah, we talked about it on the phone for like an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah, but like, yeah, so like, it is really awesome for you. Probably Gonagai's best. I would agree with that. I've read this and Cutie Honey are the two that I've read, and I do like, I like both definitely, but I like things like Devilman just like tips it over for me. But yeah, it was awesome. I think, yeah, like it's one of those things where like I wish the OVAs that came out in the 80s that were adapting chapters of this continued.
Right. So the OVAs, I feel like if they got a proper conclusion, then maybe it would be. And I'd also probably feel like less mixed about Crybaby, because I think one of my main problems with Crybaby is like, okay, now for a lot of people, this is the definitive version because it has the ending of Devilman.
Yeah.
But it has all these other things I kind of don't like about it, so I don't want it to. And normally I'm not that much of a Crybaby nerd for a lot of things, but since Devilman, it's like, for the longest time until Chainsaw Man came around, it was my like second favorite manga of all time. So, I'm a little bit precious to it, but
yeah, I would
again,
love
it's a
to
series.
revisit it because nowadays now I'm older and I've like seen and experienced so much more. I like analyzing, storytelling and like, oh, what's it trying to say? But like back in the day in uni, I'm like, oh, cool devil fight, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, there's that, but also Go Nagai made it as like a kind of response to like war and everything. And the Geki Man manga, he was just like, I almost felt like I was possessed writing this manga. I couldn't stop until like I was done. Because at the time he was working on a bunch of other manga. He's like, I need to stop working on this series. I know they're doing really well, but I need to focus on Devilman. And like even the magazine at the time is like, you got to wrap up Devilman. He's like, please let me do more. Like he had this in him. He was like, he needed to get this story out there.
Yeah. So so I would really love to like revisit this again and like re-examine it and stuff. And like obviously I watched those OVAs again because like those OVAs in the 80s, like, oof, they blew me away. And I was like, oh, I wish, like, especially after Crybaby, I'm like, this is what we should have gotten as an adaptation.
Right. I mean, I think those OVAs were the 90s actually, but yeah,
were they?
Yeah, I think.
Oh, okay, 90s. Never mind. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like those like I think there were only two. I think it's just like they had like I think the first two chapters, I think, or something like that. The one of them was the turtle fight. The other one was like obviously the beginning of Devilman.
Oh, right, yeah. It's just also those OVAs looked fantastic. There's like some bits of animation where I'm like, I don't think I've ever come across anything that looks that good. Like to this day, like they were cooking with that OVA, which is why it always pisses me off. Because I remember I was telling a friend about Devilman, and he wasn't going to read the manga because it's old. So I told him to like watch one of the animes, and he's like, "Oh, but the anime was too old too." And I'm like, "Did he watch the '70s one?" And like, I'm like, what color was Devilman? He was like, oh, he was like skin color. I'm like, you watched the OVAs and you thought that looked too old and it didn't look good? I'm like, yeah, it's technically older, but you cannot tell me the OVAs do not look good. That is a skill issue. Your eyes don't work. I mean, I know that guy was wearing glasses, but I'm like, you got to change that prescription. There's something wrong with your vision. Those OVAs look fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, some people, they look at the Mona Lisa and are like, shitty picture. Like, so. Or mid. So, I guess, like, those
mid is one of those words where, like...
It didn't exist back then, but, like, I imagine if it did, he would say
no,
that.
No, like, even then, like, mid's pissed me off. Because really, all mid means is it's middling. It's like a 7
average.
out of 10.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's like 7 out of 10. 6 to 7 out of 10. Which is not that bad. That's like the average for most people.
Yeah.
People have spun it around to make mid, like, some people freak out about mid, like, to the point where they're just like, oh my god, he called my favorite series mid, like, they just said it was like a 2 out of 10. It's like, no, it's like a 6, or it's okay, it's decent, maybe even good. It's all right. It's not, but like, people will just point at everything and be like, mid. Like, I know, like, Witch Hat Atelier is coming out, and I'm kind of dreading those days. Because you're reading the manga right now.
I'm reading the manga right now, yeah.
And I know for a fact, because it happened with Freyren, it happened with Delicious in Dungeon. The anime is going to come out.
Freyren? Come on.
Yeah, there's people like after the anime like overtook Full Metal Alchemist on like my anime list for like the top anime.
Yeah.
People started coming out, they came out of their little like rat nests and they're like, Freyren's mid. I pronounce it mid. I cast mid upon it. Fuck your elf. I'm like, why are you guys like this? Like, it's okay to think it's mid. Everyone's entitled to opinions. But I always find it weird. These people like start like coming out of nowhere. Like they materialize when something gets popular. It's like, shit, I gotta say something's mid.
I mean, that's with everything. Like, once something gets popular, there is a counterculture to it. So, like, yeah, like, as soon as Freyren got to that level, it's like, yeah, all of those, like, like, contrarian people came out. Like, no, it's not. Like, so, yeah. And not surprising. It's like, it's happened with everything. I'm pretty sure back in the day, Matrix probably had the same issue. Trying to think anything else. whatever anything that became Harry Potter when the books were like being popular. I'm pretty sure there was like a whole counterculture like, oh my god, Harry Potter is mid. And again, they wouldn't say mid because mid didn't exist as like a term back then, but like
yeah, they'd just be like, oh, lame, it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, I don't know, maybe it was like, it's gay. Because that's what everyone used to say back in the day.
Yeah. So then, yeah, like that doesn't surprise me, but like, yeah, I don't want that to happen because I really like Witch Hat Atelier so far. It's been the only thing that's just okay. That's I don't want to go into Witch Hat Atelier. That'll be like another tangent, but like, yeah, like back to Devilman and then like move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said my piece about Devilman, so I'll move on to my fourth pick. Which is funny. I've just realized the past three manga have all had something similar, which is the word man. We've had Chainsaw Man, we've had Devilman, and now it's time for Kinniku Man. Now this one's, I was going to say less demonic, but not really. But I'll get into that later. Yeah. Satan is an actual character in Kinniku Man.
To be fair, your top four all have a devil in it, or demons.
That is true.
Yeah, I don't know what
I think almost every manga, except my last one, has some form of demon in them.
Yeah, which is weird, because you don't like horror movies, so I don't know.
See, like I've said, I like the flavor of horror, but I'm not like...
I like horror light. Give me diet horror.
See, please. Like if horror was like a hot sauce, I enjoy a little bit of it, but I don't like drowning in it.
Man, you're missing out. You're missing out.
I won't burn my little tongue.
I literally just like watched a movie in the cinema called Long Legs. It's about like Satan worshiping.
I kind of wanted to see that.
It's about a Satan worshipping serial killer.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
That's the one with Nick Cage, right?
Yes, that's the one with Nick Cage, yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I did want to see that, because... I kind of want to get into horror. We'll get into that probably later on, but, like, if you guys don't know, he used to be, like, the greatest comic book YouTuber, but he kind of stopped, and he kind of switched gears. Now he's getting into horror, but Matt Draper, if you haven't seen him, highly recommend that channel, just as a whole. But he made a video this week. It was like an introduction to horror, and it was like 13 movies to get you. And I'm like, damn, I actually want to see every single one of those movies. So I might actually do that later this year, maybe as we get closer to Halloween.
Oh yeah, Halloween would be the perfect time. Even I can recommend some like things for you. Yeah.
Actually, one of them I think the final movie was like Descent, and I think last year that's what you recommended on the podcast. I'm like, Hamza talked about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that movie. It's so claustrophobic. You're gonna hate it. if you hate tight spaces, oof.
I don't think I'm that claustrophobic.
But that movie will make you claustrophobic. But anyways, back to Kinniku Man. Yeah,
but back to Kinniku Man, which currently has an anime right now, the Perfect Chojin arc. Even though if you're a newcomer, I don't know, newcomers are weird because like everyone got on the new Netflix Baki series, and that was like the second one. Kinniku Man at least gives you the benefit of having episode 0, which tries condensing a 300 plus chapter series into a 20-minute episode.
Oh god.
See, it was fine for me because I freaking read the manga. I'm not sure if you watched that, you'd be like, yeah, I'm all up to date. I'm ready. I'm not sure if it's entirely for you, but Kinniku Man, a hugely popular series in Japan. Not so much outside, especially in like English-speaking countries. A lot of people are probably more familiar with Ultimate Muscle, which was like the 4Kids technically sequel to Kinniku Man, which follows Kinniku Man's son. But the original Kinniku Man is like this bizarre Ultraman parody that just followed a bumbling superhero who just kind of sucked. But eventually it makes its way from being this like dumbass comedy into like the dumbest superhero wrestling comic ever in existence, and it's beautiful for that. Once it goes like head first into the wrestling thing, this series is just, if you love tournament arcs, Kinniku Man is essentially a series that's tournament arc after tournament arc after tournament arc, because all the fights on the ring, so it's essentially just tournaments. You got some of the craziest, most bizarre fucking characters you ever see. You basically got these superhero wrestlers fighting other like demonic or alien wrestlers. A lot of them could essentially just be like creatures that you would have seen in like a Super Sentai series, you know, like the weird like toilet monster or whatever. That is a wrestler in Kinnikuman that Kinnikuman has to like fight on the ring. And despite it being so goofy, it can oddly be very dark. You know, there's like Satan worshippers, there's a lot of violence, people get like chopped in half, faces ripped off, mountains made of flesh. Crazy ass series. You know, you're fighting Satan worshippers, you're fighting time travelers, you're fighting aliens, you're fighting these bizarre gods that have secretly watched over humanity from its like entire existence, who have secretly influenced it and have turned every single historical monument into a wrestling ring.
Okay, jeez. You just said so much.
10 out of 10 stuff. And also the crowning jewel of Kinnikuman is friendship. Now, friendship is the term that most shonen fans cringe at because a lot of mangaka are not equipped to properly use friendship power. You know, it's always a cop-out, it's an ass-pull. Now, it's not that Kinnikuman doesn't make it a cop-out or ass-pull, but it kind of like blocks all that because it's baked into the story. Friendship power is a real tangible power that can be acquired in the series. The manly bonds of friendship are real. If you believe in your friends, if you have empathy, you can grow stronger. And I think that is a beautiful, oddly kind of deep message for Kinnikuman. Like, I almost feel like I need to be the video essay person and be like, why that's secretly beautiful? Because Kinnikuman has a power called the Burning Into Strength, which is this awesome power that a lot of people can't get. And the secret ingredient for that is unlike any other shonen series. You know, like to reach your ultimate power, you know, you have to get angry. You know, something tragic has to happen to you, sadness. You know, Kinnikuman, it's to have empathy. Only through empathy can you overcome your enemies. And I'm like, shit. Is Kinnikuman deep? Question mark.
This series has been on my list for a long time. Now, you recommended this to me at the very wrong time because I was not familiar with Tokusou. Like, I did not know what Ultraman was. I wasn't even a wrestling fan at the time you recommended this to me, but now I am a fan of both those things. Wrestling, unfortunately, I just don't have the time to keep up with. If I had, again, all the time in the world, I would love to just, like, follow wrestling and, like, go back into history and watch, like, even old wrestling. But, like, yeah. Ultraman, definitely, I still do keep up with that because that's manageable. And, like, yeah, I do want to read this really, really badly. It's, like, everything you've just said, like, it ticks my, like, boxes. Like, the friendship thing, the wrestling thing, the Ultraman parody thing, which I know eventually stops being that, and it's kind of in the rear window. But at least, you know, now I'll understand the jokes.
Right.
That were there at the beginning, like, oh, this is what he's parodying. I understand. Okay. But yeah, like, it is one of those series that I wish was more reader-friendly, because even you told me, like, the first 50 chapters are rough, and there isn't really, like, even the anime, I think, is also rough, if I'm not mistaken, or something.
I mean, the anime's fine. The only thing was the anime. I haven't fully watched the anime. I think I watched, like, scattered episodes, but I think I did properly watch, like, the first 15 episodes and a couple of the movies. The original Toei anime has, you know, a perfect cast, perfect music, amazing openings. But they inject a lot of, like, comedy and references that even the manga didn't have, and sometimes it gets a little annoying, especially when some of the comedy references are, like, very, like, specific to that time period.
Okay.
So either it's like a manga that I just don't really have any connection to, because either at the time, especially, I'm like, I don't know what this 70s baseball manga you're parodying is, or I don't know who that celebrity is. So kind of runs into that issue that the manga really didn't have. And then the manga has the problem that in the beginning, because Kinnikuman is made by a duo known as Yu Tamago, which is two people. One does the writing, the other does the art. The art, not the greatest in the beginning. And then the scans for the earlier chapters are also not the greatest. So even when I first tried getting into Kinnikuman, I'm kind of like, this is rough.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came into it a second time, because I saw the opening for it, and I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. I have to get into this. But at the time, the anime wasn't really properly subtitled. Like, it only had a few episodes, not all of them. And even, I think to this day, the original anime is still getting subtitled. I think it's finished by now. I think. I'm not too sure about that. But I'm pretty sure some in the comments will let us know. But yeah, so I just decided to power through the manga, and the art progressively gets better. Like Terry Man, Kiniko Man's best friend, who's an American superhero. Originally, he just looked like a blob of flesh. And now he's the most beautiful Texan ever.
And it's just like best friend, right? Like
originally, Terry Man was just like this greedy American guy who didn't want to save anyone unless they gave him money. Then Kiniko Man, kind of punches him and is like, listen, man, you're a superhero. You just got to do things good for the people. And then Terry Man's like, you know what? That guy's pretty cool. I will become his best friend. I will sacrifice my leg for that guy. And guess what? He sacrificed his leg for that guy. Terry Man is the ultimate anime best friend. If you're not willing to die for me, only to resurrect yourself, only to die again for me, can you really be my best friend? Terry Man has set high standards for me.
Oh boy. Yeah, so I don't have much to say, but it's just one of those things that I have to get to this eventually in my lifetime before I die. It's how long is it? Is it longer than One Piece or like?
Oh no, it's not longer because the original series was 300 plus chapters. Then it stopped. It came out with Kiniko Man Nisei, which follows his son. Which I'm not sure how canon it is, because then in 2011 they relaunched Kiniko Man with a direct sequel to the original Kiniko Man series. And there's some events that go on in that where I'm like, I'm not sure how this would tie into Nisei. But then Kiniko Man just introduced time traveling gods. So I'm pretty sure they're going to retcon it in the most superhero way imaginable. We'll have to wait and see on that what they're cooking. But so 2011 is still ongoing. I think as a whole, I mean, it definitely hasn't hit 1,000 chapters yet.
All right. Okay. So that was the one thing that was worrying me. Because I'm like, listen, one Piece in my lifetime is already difficult. Right? You're gonna need 2 One Piece stand?
I mean, technically, because right now, if you just want Kiniko Man, you don't really have to read Nisei, even though Nisei is still pretty good, and I would recommend.
I'm just talking about. I'm probably not gonna read Nisei unless I don't know, maybe I fall in love with Kiniko Man. I have to consume everything.
Right, but so you just have to read the original 80 series and then the 2011 series.
Yeah. And then if I want
between
more,
the 80s and 2011, there was nothing beside Nisei.
Got it. Alrighty. Oof, that was a lot.
Yeah. So then next up, we got Don, which is probably the most recent series on this list. It kind of surprised me.
Yeah, even me. I was like, Don's already there. It's still brand new. Still, I would say
it's been 100 plus chapters. I look forward to it every Monday, just like Chainsaw Man. I kind of keep on thinking about it. Even before the anime was announced, but especially since the anime has been announced, I've just been the series is peak. It's great, and kind of like Dorohedoro, but not necessarily as much. It's a series made for me. It's a manga about aliens and ghosts and some cryptids. I'm all in, baby. I was sold. Now, see, originally I was going to get into the series because the way it was originally marketed towards me was that Fujimoto's assistant on Chainsaw Man made a manga. And I read the first chapter. Well, I didn't read it because I think I was just skimming through it because I read the summary. It's oh, Fujimoto's assistant. I'm like, okay, you got my attention there. And I was skimming through it and I was kind of put off a bit because the first chapter is a little rapey, and the manga after that point never reaches that point ever again. It's just the first chapter, which is why I'm kind of curious in the first episode reaction that a lot of people the knee-jerk reactions that are going to happen. So I was skipping through it, I saw, and again, I'm skimming through. I'm not properly reading it, so obviously your attention gets attracted to like the really fucked up scenes. I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this, and so I kind of put it off to the side. But then eventually, after I had like 50 chapters or so, I'm like, what happened to this Don to Don? I read it. I was immediately smacked in the face with Peak. I'm like, this is great. It's a manga about aliens fighting ghosts. The fuck was I doing before? It is a series that has that. You have Shin Godzilla Loch Ness Monster. The main characters fight like the ghosts of Beethoven. There is a Ultraman kaiju that fights like a Buddha mech. An all-out alien war. Right now, they're going into like they're inside this like fantasy diorama.
Oh,
That's like it's like the final arc of the original Yu-Gi-Oh manga where they go into like a diorama and they like have to play by like D&D rules. It's exactly like that. And also on top of having incredible action and incredible art, I'm surprised the series is weekly. The characters are really nice. The main duo of Okuran and Momo, fantastic. Right off the bat, I'm like, these two are best friends. They have so many cute interactions. And then when the series feels like hitting you with emotion, smacks you down hardcore. There are some like deeply depressing backstories in this manga. I'm like, a chapter ago, I was like screaming to the heavens, like, and that's how hyped I was. And then the next chapter, I'm like, I want to go to sleep. Now, that hurt. But Don to Don's peak. I love Don to Don Monday. I can't wait for the anime. I'm so excited for the anime. The anime looks so good. Science Saru, I'm a little sad that they seem to be becoming adaptation machines rather than just doing original stuff, but it all looks really good. It sounds really good. Apparently, G Kids also got the license for Don to Don, and I think we're going to get the first 3 episodes in theaters. I will be there for that. And like everyone seems to have faith in this Don to Don anime because like Crunchyroll has it, Netflix has it, G Kids has it. I keep on seeing the trailer over and over again online. I'm hyped. And again, before everyone starts calling Don to Don mid, I'll have everyone know I'm the series' biggest supporter. I think I've talked about like I've gone back on previous podcasts, Punchcasts. I feel like every other episode I will talk about this manga anyways. So that's how I knew I'm like, this probably deserves to be here. It's sadly edged out Yotsuba. Yotsuba's no longer on the list. Spoilers. It was on my list for the longest time. But then Don to Don like fucking kicked that little kid in the face.
Oh god, don't say that. Yeah, I've heard about this constantly for the longest time. I've not touched it yet. And again, it's on my list. Hopefully, this one I plan to like keep off for the longest time until like it ends. Probably then I'll binge it all at once together. But like, yeah, it's one of those like this along with like I'm trying to think what else. This and probably like Chainsaw Man were like the two that were like, and JJK to an extent, that were like out there. I was like, oh, you gotta read this manga. This manga's gonna be the next big thing. So yeah.
You see, unlike JJK and Chainsaw Man, because like I mean, Chainsaw Man had that like weird ability where before it even had an anime, people were like raving about it.
Yeah.
And like Don to Don in Japan, Don to Don does really good. It had like a Ghostbusters crossover for Afterlife. It was just like a promotional image, but like it's popular in Japan, but like in the English speaking fandom, it's not really that reflective. Like there's definitely people that like it. Like there's people that do enjoy it, but like it's not to the extent of like Chainsaw Man or JJK, where like a chapter comes out and it's like trending on Twitter, which I think is a damn shame because like Don to Don, every chapter there's some holy shit moment in like every chapter of Don to Don. Either holy shit that's hype, holy shit that's sad, holy shit that's cute. There's always that holy shit moment. So, and I feel it needs to be talked about more. So I'm hoping the anime changes that. I'm just not looking forward to like the mid people, but you know. if that's the price that I have to pay to see more people enjoy the series, oh well. I'm not a gatekeeper. As a recommendation master, I'm the gate opener.
All right. It's somewhat cringy, but
What do you mean? I thought I was cooking
I don't
with
know.
that one.
I don't know. It was like, ew.
Gate opener, man.
That sounds sexual.
Let me come around the back and open your gate, baby.
Oh.
Special delivery.
Okay.
Anyways, moving on. We have the most normie thing on here, but I bowed down to its greatness a couple years ago. Dragon Ball. Now, Dragon Ball was originally in my top anime list, but Hamza back in uni was like, no, the Dragon Ball manga is the way to experience Dragon Ball. And Dragon Ball was like my first anime, in a sense, like my first proper anime. So I had like a lot of nostalgia for it. I really like, the music and voice acting, well, from the English dub. So I'm like, no, I don't think the manga's it. I'm like, no, Hamza, you're lying to me. Couple years ago, I'm like, you know what? I have the Viz app. I might as well read it at the job I had previously. Previously, I used to do like an overnight front desk job. Wasn't really that good. I only stayed because the supervisor was great, but that hotel job sucked. But the best thing about that job is my supervisor, he would have to go do like this night report, and he'd be gone for like 2 hours, hour and a half, depending on the day. So from essentially, since it was an overnight job, from like 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., I would just be by myself in the front desk. And it was like a small, tiny, like, it was like a 145 room hotel. So unless someone was really bitchy and annoying or something really bad happened to the hotel, which that did happen a couple times, for the most part, between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., nothing was happening. So I would just read manga. I would just go on the computer and just be like, Viz, and like sign into my account and just read manga. And so I caught up to like, I read the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, I caught up to Jujutsu Kaisen and Dragon Ball Super. I'm like, you know what? From Dragon Ball Super, let me give Hamza a shot with what he was saying about the manga. I read the manga. Not only did I re-fall in love with Dragon Ball, but I re-fell in love with Toriyama, who unfortunately passed away this year. But
yeah,
after like a volume of Dragon Ball, I'm like, I kneeled. I'm like, this is why he's the GOAT. See, with Dragon Ball, it's very easy to dismiss it. It's the most popular thing. Everyone knows about it. Everyone references about it. Everyone talks about it. If there's one anime you were to go up to a kid or any random person on the street and be like, name an anime, chances are Dragon Ball is like in that mindset. I mean, these days for like a Zoomer, it might be Jujutsu Kaisen or Attack on Titan. But for the most part, like if you go up to an old dude, be like, hey, name an anime, it's probably gonna be like Dragon Ball.
True. Yeah.
It's iconic, but because of that, it's very easy to dismiss it. But just rereading it, I feel like it is the perfect shonen adventure. It has everything you could want. The formula is amazing. I love Kid Goku. I mean, manga-wise, Dragon Ball is both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but, the Viz app separates them. And America kind of separates it, even though in Japan it's like one thing. I'm currently making my way through Dragon Ball Z, which is, like, Dragon Ball, like, I think both the anime and manga are pretty good. The manga it's a lot more smoother. Well, Dragon Ball Z, that's where I'm like, okay, no, Hamza was right about this whole anime thing. Because, like, in the anime, we're constantly stalling for time.
Yes. I felt that way about Dragon Ball as well. Like, things that we've moved past, it was just taking too long. And then with the manga, it's like, this was meant to be a speedy read. Because, like, that's just how Toriyama, like, the way he constructs panels and like.
See, I guess with the anime, I didn't mind it too much for early Dragon Ball because it was a little bit more laid back of an adventure. It wasn't super serious into the action. It was more like an adventure comedy with some good action, to me personally. But then Dragon Ball Z rolls around and it's like, no, okay, they're hardcore, like they're doubling down on action.
Yeah.
And then that's when like that pacing starts to like become irritating.
Yeah. So just a bit of background. So spoiler alert, this is also on my top 10 manga list because as a person who really cares about how action is displayed and how action should be portrayed and moved, I get very picky about that to an annoying level. I know it's like some people like they can like a lot of things that pass for other people like I can't stand. So whenever I get like a movie or a manga or anything that's like action oriented and it's like beautiful, seamless, clear, 100% clarity, like I immediately fall in love with it. So like Dragon Ball, just to be clear, I don't have any nostalgic connection to it. It was around me as a kid, but I was never a fan of it like other people were. I consumed this in uni when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And I started with, first of all, the conversation between should I start with Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. That was an annoying research project. Getting everybody's opinions on like whether I should start with Dragon Ball.
By the way. It's Dragon
Ball. When I asked most people, they said I just start Z. Dragon Ball doesn't matter.
You're wrong. It's just actually
even after like consuming it, I'm like, no, you need Dragon Ball to like understand so many things in Z. Like Z builds on the foundations built in Dragon Ball. Anyways,
exactly. Like you're missing out on his entire fucking backstory.
Yeah. So I started watching Dragon Ball, and it was fine, but I was like, oof, the pacing is really slow on this. Goddamn, like it's just I know things are just taking way too long and forever. So then I switched to the manga, and immediately I was like, this is like the easiest manga I've ever read in my life. I mean that is like a good thing. Like what I mean by that is like the way again Toriyama constructs panels and like moves your eyes across a page, let alone an action scene, just like in general. Like it's just so smooth. It's simple at the beginning, but then later on, as you like. Especially when in Z, when things get a lot complicated, because that's when like the action gets complicated. Like he really knows just how to like just make your eyes dance across the page and just seamlessly glide it to the point, and then suddenly like you've just read like 50 pages and without even realizing it. And like that was like such a blessing. I'm like, oh my god. So like I still to this day have not seen the final like Goku Piccolo fight that happens in early Dragon Ball, like the final fight that happens in the Tenaichi Budokai, whatever, Strongest Man of the Heavens tournament. I believe that's what it's called in English. Yeah. But I have read it twice because I'm also in a rereading phase right now, especially after Toriyama's passing. I'm like, I gotta reread Dragon Ball.
Unfortunately, I was like, I just. I finished Dragon Ball and I was getting into the Z portion of it. I just got done with the Saiyan arc in Dragon Ball Z, and that's when his announcement of his passing came out. And I'm like, no. Because, Toriyama's really good. Like, he really mastered the flow of the story.
Yeah.
There was a bit of an early Dragon Ball, but then once we get to Z, he's also really fucking good at tension. Like, tension and even horror a bit. Like, when... Vegeta and Nappa were kind of like fucking things up on Earth, or even like when you're seeing like the Frieza and his like army kind of like terrorize Namek, it's very palpable. And it's like, I feel like a very underrated thing. And I can't wait to get into like the Cell arc. Cause I remember in the anime thinking like Cell was like really scary in his initial beginnings. So I can't wait to see that in the manga, like actually experience that considering how good everything else has been good. And then also one of my absolute favorite things about Dragon Ball, like early Dragon Ball, before it doubled down on more of the sci-fi aesthetics for Z, is that early Dragon Ball like just took place in this world where like anything could happen.
Yeah.
You have dinosaurs, you have robots, you have demons, you have vampires, then a dog man is the president of the world. Anything could happen. And like, I don't really think there's that many shonen series that, despite everyone saying they're a successor to Dragon Ball, really accomplish that. I think One Piece is the closest, but I think One Piece is the closest in terms of original Dragon Ball's like sense of adventure, comedy, and the world. But it doesn't quite capture the action element because I don't think like I enjoy the action in One Piece, but to me, One Piece has never really been an action series. It's more of an adventure first.
Yeah, I could see that. It's an adventure first but like when a fight happens, like Oda knows how to construct a fight. Like that I'll give to him. Like
I do, but like there's a couple fights where I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but compared to a lot of other shonen series, I don't really find myself rewatching that many One Piece fights. Surprisingly enough, the one I rewatched the most was probably like Luffy versus Bluno, which is when he first uses Gear Second. And that wasn't really a fight, it was just an ass whooping.
I mean, my favorite fight to this day is still the shortest ever fight. I think it's like 3-4 pages at most, which is short for a manga. For a comic book, that's like, holy crap, I got 4 pages? Yeah. It's Luffy versus Usopp, and they're having that argument. Because
that was 4 pages?
I think so. I think it was really short.
I watched the anime. That was like a whole episode.
It was really short. Like I was like on the edge of my seat.
Oh damn!
Like,
okay.
Yeah, I mean this is not like a One Piece. Like a spoiler alert. Shane's next.
Yeah, I was going to say we're like this will be a good flow into One Piece because One Piece is next on the list.
Yeah, I mean we can combine both these guys because they're like they're one was inspired by the other. But like yeah, so
right.
The Usopp Luffy fight. Like first of all, like I was of the impression that like Usopp can't do shit against Luffy. There is no fucking way Usopp can even like so much as flick like Luffy's nose. And then the fight started and like Usopp moment by moment, panel by panel, page by page, somehow through not not even ass pulls, just like things that were established in the story was like, from the Skypiea arc, from the Alabasta arc, like he was using against Luffy in such ingenious ways to counter him because he knows he can't like, obviously when it went to like full on like blow for blow fisticuffs, Luffy would have him, but like the fact that he has to use his brain, like how can I outsmart Luffy using what I already have like experienced in my like, pirate journey and like just counter him in these like precise ways. Like I was on the edge of my seat. I was literally saying out loud like to myself like what the fuck because like I was shocked and that tipped me over to like Usopp's my favorite character. Like I just like this guy is the only like normal person in the One Piece like universe and he's like his back is so against the wall because he's like weaker than everybody but he has to like somehow compete and he lives up to that level and then oh my god, later on when spoilers alert, when he gets... Can I say spoilers? I think we can, like, this is, like, definitive, you can say spoilers. When he gets hockey later on, I'm like, my man's growing. like my man's proven. Because, like, there's no way if you, like, start reading Usopp's story, you're like, there's no way this guy is gonna, like, power up to, like, anything, but then as you read his journey, it's like, he's had the most growth out of any of the Straw Hats. And I love him for it. So, like, yeah, like, One Piece for me, like, again, that sense of adventure, again, like, I would say it does the whole Nakama, other than Kinnikuman, because I haven't experienced Kinnikuman yet, but, like, if there's something that can rival, I guess, Kinnikuman, at least from your description, the Nakama friendship thing, and, like, how friends should, like, die for each other, I think One Piece gets the closest, if you know, like, probably.
Right, see, like, because people always say, like, oh yeah, One Piece uses bullshit friendship power-ups, but I don't really think it ever gets to that. I think
it uses it One Piece it uses it as motivation. I've never felt...
it's more of like a motivation or code of honor. It's never like a power.
It's not like a power thing, it's just like, in order for Luffy to, like, have that energy to, like, get to a certain level or a certain place, that's when the friendship thing, like, really, like, I think, again, it's not, I've never felt it's like, oh, this is, like, an ass pull, or it physically, like, helps him or something. Like, from what I understand, Fairy Tail makes that mistake. I have not read Fairy Tail. Again, don't come at me.
It makes that mistake far too often.
Yeah, but I think One Piece walks that line fairly well, where it's like it's a motivational tool, but it's not like an ass pull. Like, how did he get that new power up? How did he get that thing? How did he become stronger? Oh, friendship. Unless it's like, now Kinnikuman bypasses that because you said like, oh, it's an actual like tangible thing.
Yeah,
But
it's a well established in this universe. It's like, yeah, no, if you
yeah,
have these bonds, you could power up.
you can power up. Yeah, but like One Piece didn't establish that, but it doesn't make that mistake of like basically treating it like a power up when it's not, but it uses it as a motivational tool. Like,
Yeah, like Oda gives
why did a
characters.
character do something? Oh, because of friendship. Yeah.
Yeah, it's never. Yeah, it doesn't get into that. Even though Oda, like, I don't really think he's necessarily the greatest with power ups. It's just like Luffy just has Gear Second now. I'm like, oh, okay. Not complaining. It's cool, but like, really? I would have liked one training panel. But anyways, with One Piece it's on here. When I was starting out with anime, and I've made a couple videos about this, it was like not just because I watched the anime originally. It wasn't just like my favorite anime or manga. It was like my favorite thing. Like, I thought about this series like every other second. Like, when I was like 15, One Piece was constantly on my mind. I was a part of the Straw Hat crew. They didn't know me, but I was one of them. They were my Nakama. Fucking love One Piece. So it was like the gold standard. Like, I loved it from like chapter 1, but then once we got to Alabasta, I elevated the series. It just became like,
Same for me. I liked it. I was like, I recognized like, oh yeah, this is a fun manga, but like, I don't see why people are like head over heels for it. Then the Alabaster arc happened. I'm like, oh, I see why. Like that, like all the fights, what happened, them putting the fist up with the X, like, oh, just like, oh, this is what it's actually about. Like this is what One Piece can be. And then like the Water 7 arc, I think tops it. I think it's the one after that, right? Alabaster, then Water 7. Oh, there's something else in the middle.
There's like Skypiea.
Oh, yeah, right. There is Hyperion in the middle. But like, I think like Water 7 to this day, I think is my favorite shonen arc, if I had to pick one. Yeah.
Yeah, Water 7's great. You know, it's probably like one of the most like widely recognized One Piece arc. I remember there were some people like, One Piece is long, just skip to Water 7, which don't do that.
You can't skip. There is nothing in One Piece you can skip. You have to start episode 1 or chapter 1. There's no like, getting around it.
And like, let me be honest with you people. I don't really feel like you're going to start loving One Piece if you start Water 7 if you didn't like it from episode or chapter 1. Like, if you can't handle it from episode chapter, I don't think it's going to get any better for you.
True, yeah. It's like if you're like 50 chapters in, you got to be on board. If you're not, then like, okay, this is not for you. Like, it's
walk the plank.
Like, it's like, yeah, sure. The tone slightly changes, or like the action gets a bit different, but like still the same theme, still the same characters. Like, characters really don't change that much. Even Usopp still is like, Usopp changes the most, but I think for the most part, the rest are all pretty much the same. Luffy's 100% still the same. He's just like, I think a little bit better for leader, maybe. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right. But then going more so, because I know we kind of led into One Piece a bit differently than we did for the previous manga, but go quick, because I still have a couple more manga before we switch over to Hamza.
Yeah.
With One Piece, again, beginning, it's like my favorite thing ever, but as I continued expanding my taste, it kind of drifted further and further away. I was a big fan of the anime until not Water 7, the Whitebeard War. After that, I switched to the manga. And then once I got caught up, it became pretty rough. Because I think when I officially caught up with One Piece, it was like the middle of Fishman Island.
Ooh, that's a bad place. Yeah, like the Fishman Island, it was fine. It wasn't as bad as people told me.
Yeah, I don't think it's like the worst arc ever. Like, it's fine.
I think it's like, again, like, I think people who were telling me, it's like, ooh, Fishman Island is not that great, were the ones who were doing it week to week. And so, but like, once you binge it all together, it's like, It's fine. It's like you get through things fast. It's like a nice like, oh, everybody was apart and now everybody's coming together and they've got new shit. Let's see what they do with their new powers. Yeah.
You see, One Piece has that thing that I call Part 2 disease, which thankfully Chainsaw Man avoided. Chainsaw Man got the vaccine for the Part 2 disease. I call it the Part 2 disease because I feel like a lot of shonen series, when they reach, the Part 2, the time skip, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
For me, my personal interest kind of dips a bit. Like, either something I really liked in Part 1 just completely disappears, or it becomes a lot more complicated or convoluted to the point where I'm like, I just don't like it so much anymore. It happened with Naruto. To an extent, it kind of happened from like Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. Even Fist of the North Star Part 2, a lot of fans don't really like that. But there's a lot of shonen series that do like the whole Part 2 thing. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, One Piece is kind of like that. After the time skip, I really did feel like my love for One Piece kind of waned a bit. Because the problem with One Piece, and it's like one of those hard things where like I don't necessarily know how you'd fix it, because a lot of people always complain like, oh, One Piece is too long, blah, blah, blah. I feel One Piece justifies its length. Like, I don't really feel like Oda's wasting his time ever. Everything really does have... There was one
arc I only felt like it was waste of time, because every other arc has had something that's like, even if you think like, oh, this is a side thing that will never be important again, Oda finds a way to make it important. The only one I feel like was a waste of time was that race around an island. If you remember that. Yeah. That's the one arc that has not been referenced again. Every other...
Dude, I'm telling everyone, Oda's going to bring that back somehow. That Foxy guy, he's going to be super important to everyone, and I will laugh at all of you.
He's done it, like everything else he's referenced and has been important.
He's waiting. He's holding on to it. This isn't his back. This is his secret card. When you least expect it, it's like, boom, this man's the key.
Because a lot of people, Thriller Bark was filler, or like this arc was filler. None of those has felt. This genuinely felt, that particular arc genuinely felt like, okay, this genuinely feels like filler now. Like, what are we just racing?
But anyways,
yeah.
But besides that, I feel like it justifies its length and everything. The problem is, and I understand it's for the sake of making One Piece feel like a really big lived-in world, because I truly think it has one of the best worlds in fiction, or at least in manga. Mm-hmm. But as Part 2 keeps on going on, as the New World Saga keeps on continuing, every arc just unloads so many waves of new characters. It has become so bloated. We barely get that much time with the core Straw Hat crew. They spend more time away from each other than together. And for the longest time, through like Dressrosa to Wano, it was really testing my patience. I'm like, there's too many new characters. I can't keep up to date with all of them because I have other manga, I have other things in life. I can't keep up I shouldn't need to know who the fuck Wu Slap is.
Did you tell that story on the podcast or no?
I don't think I did, but I don't want to get into that tangent yet. We will someday, but for now, it's just an inside joke between Hamza and I.
Yeah.
But there's just way too many fucking characters. I'm starting to lose patience. It's almost to the point where, despite me have been reading this series since like ongoing. I've been reading One Piece like week to week since like probably like 2013. And like I almost feel like I do need to reread it myself. Now I wouldn't mind doing that because I have the Viz app, and like I said originally, I watched the anime up until the Whitebeard War arc, so it'd be interesting to see the manga's perspective. But it's a commitment. It's long, and One Piece, at least I've been on that commitment for a long time. But it is like the new character things and the bloatedness and the Straw Hats not being together was really grinding my gears. But then luckily, Oda heard me. He's like, Shaheen, Falcon, you've been a loyal reader for the longest time. The arc after Wano, I will reward you. And he gave us Egghead. The Egghead Island arc not only unleashes probably one of the craziest designs Oda's ever produced, and it also has a 70s feel to it, which I enjoy. But there's less new characters. A lot of the characters that are introduced are kind of previously introduced, and now we get to fully see them. The Straw Hat Crew is more together, and it's a shorter arc and the stakes are so fucking high. So it kind of brought back my interest a bit in One Piece. So with One Piece, it's been off and on, but it is a core part of my anime manga fandom. So I felt like it had to be on this list. Because I really feel like, even though Dragon Ball was my first, and it was a really great introduction to anime manga, I honestly feel like if One Piece didn't just like hook me in so well, I probably wouldn't be as into anime as I am today. One Piece ruined my life.
Yeah. I haven't seen a single episode of the anime other than a few openings here and there.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Because I was a manga only person. I've only read One Piece. I've only seen the movies. A few of the movies, not all of them. Like movies.
Oh, okay. At least you've seen the movies. I'm like, man, you're reading One Piece and you don't know like the characters' voices and all. Okay.
Yeah, I know their voices now, but like at the time, like I read the colored version, like the unofficial like colored version, which the colored version is really good. Like the colors on that are like amazing. But like like I'm now rereading it from the beginning in official, like from Viz, and stuff. So like it's interesting to see like what were like what were the like because a lot of the sound effects in the unofficial colored one were not translated, but like and like seeing it like in black and white, like seeing the pencils, like would be interesting to see like how that looked. And I was a manga only person till. I mean, I still am. Yeah, I read from chapter 1 till like 900 something. I read until the very beginning of Wano. Like I was up to date, and then I'm like, all right, I'm up to date. Have like. My plan was like let like 5 to 10 chapters build up, and I'll binge it all in one go. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. As soon as I stopped, I think I read like 1 or 2 extra chapters, and then stopped. And because like again, I got involved in other things, other stories, life changed. I moved countries, like So that break that I stopped at the beginning of Wano is still going on to this day.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, damn, dude, Wano finished. The anime finished Wano too.
Yeah. So I really gotta like go. I have to start from the beginning again. There's no way. Like I've forgotten way too much.
Maybe I might start with you. Even though I'm still reading, I'm still up to date. But like, it'd be a cool little. We can make a separate One Piece podcast.
Oh God.
I
mean, there is literally a podcast that analyzes, I think, the movie Alien frame by frame.
No fucking way.
It's either frame by frame or like I don't know, 5 seconds at a time or 10 seconds, something like. It's like very short bursts. Because like that's how much like apparently that's how much depth there is in Alien, the first Alien movie. So I'm like, we could do like a chapter by chapter podcast, or a volume by volume, maybe. I think that'd be better.
Chapter by chapter would be insane.
That's
like
panel
1,000 plus oh God, no. Listen, guys, if we started up a Falcon Punch Patreon and we had enough money to quit our jobs, I would consider it. But anyways, moving on from One Piece, because my choices are actually running a bit longer than I originally anticipated. Next up, this one I could be a little bit more brief about. It's Kakugo no Susume, otherwise known as Apocalypse Zero. Thankfully, this series has been seen in a much brighter light in the past couple years, because even I avoided it until like a couple years ago for like the longest time, because unfortunately and very weirdly had this bizarre reputation for being one of the worst anime of all time with its OVA, which is completely unwarranted. There is so much more worse anime out there. And quite frankly, I think the people that are shitting on the Apocalypse Zero anime just don't know how to have fun. They're weak and they will not survive the winter. Apocalypse Zero kicks ass. My elevator pitch for it has always been if Go Nagai wrote a Kamen Rider series with a hint of Fist of the North Star. Which, if that doesn't get you excited for the series, kind of lost on me. It is a little bit more than that, but you're in this post-apocalypse. There's these crazy ass monsters walking around called like tactical fiends, and the only one that could stop them is Kakugo, this, young man who has this thing known as a fortified shell, which is this like armor that's made of a bunch of souls that he puts on like common rider armor, and he fights the tactical fiends and protects the weak. He's the sword to the innocent, or for the innocent. He defends them and everything. But it becomes more than that. There's this weird conflict he has with his brother, who's like on the evil side, and all this stuff. It's a crazy gory scene. Like, the carnage in this series happens like fireworks. Kakugo will punch someone and their guts will just explode out of their mouth in like the most grotesque fashion ever. The monsters in the beginning are just some of the weirdest fuckers you will ever see. But then as the series progresses, it goes from less of this crazy ass monster of not necessarily the weak, but these crazy monster stories, and then we get the more proper monsters. Some of the craziest and most inventive fights. It's totally my aesthetic. You got the post-apocalypse. You got like a common rider and a bunch of more like Ishinomori influence. There's a couple armors that kind of resemble Detective K and a Zooman later on throughout the series. So it has that Ishinomori influence. The mangaka is a tokusatsu fan. He would later make another series that's about like a tokusatsu fan club. Even though I think a lot of people are more familiar with this guy's work for a previous series of his, or actually, I think it's after Apocalypse Zero, but he did a series called Shigiri Death Frenzy, which is like a really violent samurai series.
Oh, that's why the art looks familiar. I was like wondering, I'm like, I've seen this somewhere before. Like the way the blood like moves around the body and the faces. I was like, okay, right, yeah. Because anytime I look up like underrated like violent manga, like this pops up.
Yeah, Shigiri, like I still haven't gone into it yet, but based off how much I love Apocalypse Zero, I really need to give it a shot. Definitely,
the recommendations for Shiguri are like Vagabond, Blade of the Immortal. I don't know why Fire Punch is here, but sure. Berserk.
Maybe because of like, I guess the craziness of it, the hyper violence, maybe.
Yeah.
But Kaku no Susume is definitely good. Ignore people that say it's the worst anime. There really is worse anime. I don't know why the fuck it got unfortunately labeled like that. We really, unless Netflix gets it, I don't know if it'll really happen. I would love to see a proper anime adaptation of this, but like considering a lot of the elements of the anime, I don't really think will happen. There's like a giant boob monster that's like very early into the series. I don't know if anime could really do that shit nowadays.
True.
Who knows? But yeah, I would love it. Or at least give me the manga again. Because we did have the manga. It didn't fully get a run. And
it just did the first 6 volumes by a company called Media Blasters before becoming defunct. That's what the background in the information says on Mal.
Yeah, so like, give me the hardcover Apocalypse Zero collection, please.
Yeah, 7 Seas. Are you looking for classic manga? This is one. I mean, it's like... when did this come out, actually? Oh, yeah, 94 to 96. Yeah, classic manga. There you go.
People consider that classic these days.
Yeah.
But moving on. I've made a video on it. Please check it out. If you're into, like, violent tokusatsu style stuff, just read it. You'll enjoy it. But then moving on, we have Yu-Gi-Oh!, which also this ties back to that hotel job that I was talking about earlier when talking about Dragon Ball. Because the first manga I checked out during that job that I decided like, I need something else to read to keep myself awake at this job I hate. I'm like, you know what? I had a childhood experience with Yu-Gi-Oh! I liked the anime. I did dress up as Yugi for Halloween one year. I was kind of into the game, but not really. But I never really checked out the manga because nowadays I'm not sure how common I thought it was common knowledge, but there's still people to this day that are kind of surprised that the Yu-Gi-Oh anime we got is not like the manga. It's very different. There was Yu-Gi-Oh Season 0, which was a bit closer to the manga, and even then there's some differences. But the OG Yu-Gi-Oh manga, the card game was a small part of it. It wasn't until probably like 80 chapters later, the card game becomes really relevant to the story. So I'm like, you know what? Let me read OG Yu-Gi-Oh when it was all about death games and go from there. And I was kind of blown away. It's a really good series, a really great shonen series about, the action. It's a non-battle shonen in that sense because of all the games.
Wait, doesn't it become one in when the card game takes over?
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a card game. It's like a battle shonen, but I mean, no one's punching each other.
Okay.
But it's just great seeing the series progression because it's kind of split into 3 parts. You got the original, which is more of a death game, and it's kind of like a bit darker. Yugi kind of either kills people or heavily mentally damages them. No remorse. Later on, when they go when we get more into like Kaiba Land, and there's a bunch of death games in there, like laser tag with assassins, like a Saw-esque game with like this crazy Leatherface dude.
Oh wow!
Russian roulette with kids. Crazy shit. Great stuff. But then finally, the card game becomes front and center because early on, when we first meet Kaiba, we get the card game, which I think at the time it was called like Monsters and Magic or something like that. It wasn't called Duel Monsters. It's very early. You could kind of see an attempt at something there because the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh, Kazuki Takahashi, really liked games, like practical games, not really video games. And apparently when he, did the card game, people thought it was a real card game. They were writing into the Jump like, yo, is this real? I'd buy it. Is it real? So they like, hey, dude, like, make it a thing. And of course, eventually the series kind of progressed. And then we got Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist, which is what, the main portion of the manga everyone really cares about. That's when the card games more more of front and center. We get Pegasus, we get Duel City, which is peak, probably one of the best shonen arcs of all time. Seto Kaiba, one of the greatest and rivals of all time. The man is so fucking petty. I love him. And again, those monster designs I've talked about in the past, Takahashi didn't miss. He makes some of the greatest dragons of all time. He doesn't just make 1 or 2 or even 3 great dragon designs. He made tons of them. Like, he didn't miss when it came to dragons. All fantastic. Then you got the Egyptian god cards. Then you got fucking Exodia, man. Fucking Exodia. Let's go. Amazing designs. Like, as a certified monster lover, like, incredible stuff. It was like amazing that he just didn't make a monster manga. He made this card game manga. But then after Duelist, we get Millennium World, which we focus more on like the Egyptian aspect of the series' original beginning, which was kind of pushed aside for a bit for the death games and card games and everything. And then Millennium World kind of doubled down on that. So it was really great reading all that, seeing that progression of the series and how it has like 3 distinct flavors. I love the characters. Again, Kaiba's fantastic, but Yugi's also good. And then Joey, or Jinochi, as he's properly known in Japanese, even though my brain still defaults to Joey and him having that weird Brooklyn accent because I was poisoned by 4 kids. But he's also a really good character and honestly is just as much as a main character as Yugi. A lot of people, I think, outside of that didn't really read the manga kind of tend to forget that, but he's also a really great character. But it was a fantastic read. I really loved it. For a while, like late 2022, early 2023, I was like in a huge Yu-Gi-Oh mood. I read the manga, I watched the original Zero anime, and then I watched the entirety of GX, which we talked about in the anime, our top 10 anime podcast, which also became one of my favorites. I became really Yu-Gi-Oh pilled for a bit, and then I kind of like was watching 5Ds, and I really enjoyed it, but I guess I kind of burnt out on Yu-Gi-Oh and haven't gone back since, but I really do. Because I've heard 5Ds is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I am interested in reading the manga. Again, Yu-Gi-Oh was around me as a kid, but I've never, again, ever engaged with it until very, very recently when I moved to Canada and I was looking for ways to, like, make friends. So I'm like, hey, let me go to the card game store. People are bound to, like, be nerdy over there. So I did, and that's how I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a really, really fun, addictive game. I know the game at this point in, like, 2024 is very different from the show. People have made, like, because it was a game that, like, clearly, like, evolved over time. They didn't figure out everything at the beginning. And I also played Yu-Gi-Oh's, the card game's at least predecessor, Magic the Gathering, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes from that as well. Which is funny because Yu-Gi-Oh fans and Magic the Gathering fans do not like each other. But yeah, it is on my list of like manga I eventually have to experience at some point in my life.
Yeah, you definitely should have hopefully we come out of this the same way we did with the anime podcast, where it's like, Hamza, you have homework. Go read the Yu-Gi-Oh!
Go read the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. Yeah, I didn't know it was like there was like three. I mean, I knew before the podcast, obviously, but I was surprised. Like, oh, it's like three different manga series technically. First one is like 7 volumes, and it's just like death games. Then the card game gets into the picture, and then
that's Duelist.
and that's
Millennium
Duelist.
World.
Yeah.
See, I'm curious. I'm not sure if it's like a Dragon Ball thing. Like, did we separate it into 3 parts? Because the Viz app separates it into 3 different portions.
Yeah.
If that's how it's supposed to be, or if it's like if it's like Dragon Ball in Japan, where it's like all one thing and never really separated, and that was like more of an anime American thing. But I don't know. The Yu-Gi-Oh manga is awesome. I read it through the Viz app, so that's just how I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
But really, really blew me away. I definitely wasn't expecting to come out of it loving it that much, especially since the card game still, even watching the anime, seems too complicated. Like, I remember even with GX, like sometimes my brain will kind of just like glaze over when they're getting really in depth with the cards. I'm kind of like, huh, cool card, bro. I was in it for the insanity and the characters.
For me, I was like very like annoyed when I heard some things like, "Oh, you used a water monster and we're fighting in a pool. It gets arbitrarily like 500 like extra life points." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Because as someone who's come from the game first, then the anime, I'm like, "What? That doesn't." And then like obviously again the game evolved over time, so it's like a lot of rules are like way outdated. So I'm like, wait, that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. And then it's like, oh yeah, like you just have to remember, like it's not the game. It's not the game, Hamza. It's completely different. Just got to go with it.
Also, I mean, for the sake of these stories, like you can't be the game. It's like a story needs to happen. Like I've seen some people get like foaming at the mouth. It's like, the game doesn't work like that. I'm like, well, if it worked like the game, it wouldn't be interesting. There wouldn't be these stakes.
Yeah.
This is a narrative they're trying to make over here. They're not just trying to do a live stream of 2 people playing a game. Even though apparently there is like a Yu-Gi-Oh manga, but it's for like the card game, like how you actually play it. Like legit, not like any of the fantasy BS.
Okay. I see.
Which I'm wondering how that is. Maybe that got those people to shut up. It's like, okay. Yeah, that's how you play the game. Even though I know for a fact there's someone out there who's like, I wouldn't do that personally.
Oh, there's plenty. I've met those people. Trust me. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but we're going to finish off my list with Lucifer in the Biscuit Hammer. I've talked about this guy plenty of times on my channel. Satoshi Mizukami is a mangaka that definitely deserves to be recognized more. It's a pretty good ratio. I mean, we have Lucifer the Biscuit Hammer, Spirit Circle, Sengoku Yoko. and then recently World End Solette, which I didn't know existed, but then Seven Seas is like, oh yeah, we have it. I'm like, I've never heard of this one. Oh, and then obviously Planet's Wit. He has a pretty good hit ratio, but despite having like, I just counted like, what, like 5 manga, he's not really talked about that much. And I don't really think there's that many mangaka that could claim they have 5 pretty good manga out there. That's kind of a rarity. But
yeah, he
Satoshi
keeps on making series after series after series, yes.
And they're good. Like, the Sengoku Yoku anime kind of made me like sit back a bit, and I'm like, is this as good as I thought it was? But despite that, it may not be the 9 out of 10 I originally thought. It's still a good shonen series. Like, I feel like any of his work would have done amazingly well for their own Shonen Jump. You know? So I still think he's immensely talented. Lucifer the Biscuit Hammer, I have a really soft spot to for multiple reasons. 1, it's my first Mizukami work. 2, weirdly enough, it was probably one of the earliest manga I read. Somehow.
By the way, it's classified as seinen.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I think between that and Dorohedoro and Kakugo Susume, those were like... I guess Kaneko Man, when it reached 2011, it became a seinen. So I guess I still have a little bit more seinen in my... But, you know, I don't have Vagabond, I don't have Vinland Saga, I don't have Berserk in here, so I guess I'm...
so you're a fake seinen fan, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, I'm the virgin seinen fan. I'm not the Chad seinen fan. I'm not on the Sigma grind set, you know? I don't have lo-fi playlists dedicated to my favorites. But anyways, back to Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. One of my earliest manga, and I've talked about the story a couple times in the past, but like one of my best friends when I was growing up in Dubai, like before I got into university, he wasn't really that into anime and manga, but for whatever reason, I think I recommended him Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. He went and read it, and it meant a lot to him personally. And the fact that it meant a lot to him personally meant a lot to me personally. Because, you know, I'm like the recommendation master, but like I'm just recommending stuff to people on the internet. And some people have come up to me or commented and been like, hey, you know, I read this series. Thank you for putting me on that series. And I always value those comments. I mean, I value all comments, but those like have a special place in my heart. Because I'm like, oh, what I'm doing, you know, matters.
And it's affecting people, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not just screaming out to the void. Like a lot of my videos. But it was something seeing that for a friend, especially one of your best friends. It was different seeing that, like, the recommendation pay off in real life. Like, you know, this is not just some random person on the internet. This is like a friend of mine. This is someone I hang out with every week. And this was the same friend that in the anime podcast I said that, you know, we watched like Shimonetta and Kill la Kill like weekly. We talked about on Facebook Messenger. That same friend. We watched some bangers together. We also watched some really shitty anime or anime that you shouldn't be watching with your friends. We watched High School DxD together.
Oh God.
Well, we didn't watch it together. But, like, every day we'd watch an episode and post about our thoughts on it. For whatever reason. We did watch a hentai together, that was a very awkward experience, because I'm like, why are we doing this?
Why were you doing that?
I don't know. He just got on my computer. He's like, yo, man, you gotta watch this hentai. And, like, so we're just watching it. And I'm like, what?
Not even
I don't know about you, man, but when I watch a hentai, there's a certain thing I'm also doing, and like I can't really do that with you in the room. I don't know. We're close friends for a while, but yeah. So it's connected with that memory. I have the whole manga. I definitely got to reread it. I've reread it a couple times, but I need to reread it now, just because after Sengoku Yoko, I'm like, oh my gosh, what if Biscuit Hammer is not as good? But to cope with that, I have reread it. It's pretty good. And I still think it has a really solid ending. Ending's great. I haven't read that many manga endings that have that like really good complete, because there's a lot of manga that end but they don't really feel that complete. You have those like lingering regrets. Oh, I wish I saw this. I wish I got more of this or that. Biscuit Hammer, it ends and I'm like, yeah, that story did end. All the loose ties are all wrapped up. We get to see all the characters, live their lives after the events of the series. I'm like, good ending. But yeah, also do not talk to me about the anime. I just want to pretend that never happened.
Yeah, again, Satoshi is like a blind spot of mine. I have to get to him at some point. I had multiple opportunities. I think I was like this close to starting Spirit Circle because it's short. But again, like Crunchyroll, it was on the Crunchyroll manga app, but that's now defunct. It doesn't exist anymore, so I have to go for scanlations because I can't because none of his work is available digitally minus a few volumes.
Well, 7C's got it, so I don't think you have to go strictly for scan. It has the official English you like.
Yeah, but it's not available digitally is the problem. Yeah. So and my library is not going to get it. So I tried. So yeah, like that's my. But like yeah, like I have to get to him. At least you could
try Planet With. That's on Crunchyroll. At least the
no. I want to experience his manga first before I'm on this kick of like because everybody's telling me, oh, you got to watch The Boys. You got to watch The Boys. I'm like, I will read it first, then watch it, please. I know it's different. I know people say like, oh, the show is better. I don't care. I'm tired of adaptations. I want to see the original first. Even though I know Planet With is technically original, there's no manga for it.
There is, which is weird. Yeah, he did also draw the manga for it.
But the anime came first, right? This is like one of the cases where the anime came. So yeah, I want to go experience his manga first before I go to Planet With. But like, he's one of those like underrated guys that like keeps churning out good stuff, but like never reaches that level. Never reaches that like never gets like his spotlight finally. That like, oh yeah, this guy's like should go down as one of the best manga artists of all time consistently. Based on consistency alone, he should be there, but like, yeah, he's not.
Yeah, it's strange, but hopefully, I don't know. See, the thing is, like, Sengoku Yoku is in better hands than Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but I still don't really see people talking about it much. I think the main problem is Sengoku Yoko, it's not a badly animated series, but it's not like constantly bursting with like breathtaking Sakuga every episode. And I think anime fans are really spoiled these days. So because it's not like dripping with like animator sweat and tears, I mean, it probably still is because anime is hard work, but it's not like, super mind-blowing Sakuga. I don't think it really got the attention it really needed.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, especially now since like I think Demon Slayer and JJK and I can't think of
even current One Piece, like Demon Slayer, JJK, current One Piece. I think those three have like just set spoiled anime fans rotten to the point where it's just like if an action series is not playing to those standards, it kind of doesn't get looked at quite as much.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. All right, so then I think that's your list done. That's like your top 10 manga.
That is my top 10. That went on a bit longer than I anticipated. Oh my god, we're like at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark. So that's what I'm saying. I think we're gonna have to do mine next time.
Yes, we're milking this because originally we had the conceit of being like, oh yeah, we'll do our top 10 manga and then we'll do our top 10 characters. And then I'm like, you know what, Hamza? Let's just focus on the manga for this episode.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, this is Falcon's favorites. Falcon's favorite manga.
Yeah, your top 10 manga as of like 2024 at least. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the top 4 is pretty secure. I mean, because both Kaneko Man and Chainsaw Man are technically both ongoing. Again, Chainsaw Man, I'm pretty confident. Kaneko Man, it's kind of full of bullshit anyways. So like you, Tamago, like the creative duo behind it, would really have to go out of their way to bullshit so hard to the point where I'm like, it's no longer in the top 4.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, I was surprised. I thought we were because we went through anime pretty quickly. Now that I think about it.
See, I think the thing is, I was telling Hamza before, because we're getting back in the mood of podcasting.
Yeah.
So I kind of try winging everything, but then I realize I'm not that talented. So like I need to go in with a bit of prep. So with the anime one, I was kind of just like shooting from the hip.
Mm-hmm.
When I was editing the podcast, I was kind of like, I kind of wish I said more about this series, or I wish, I mentioned this experience or that experience I had with this series a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. And I'm like, shoot. So with the manga one this morning when I was at the gym, I was like on the treadmill and I was like counting down my top 10. I'm like, all right, I have this series. I'm going to talk about this, and that. I'm talking about this and that for this series. I had it all planned out in my head. So I think because of that, I talked a little bit more than we initially anticipated. I mean, it's 10 manga. It's quite a lot to go through, I guess, and to go into why they're my favorites.
And it shows that you're a true manga reader because you spent so much time on it versus the anime one.
Yeah, I'm not a real anime fan. I'm a more. Well, I guess if you go on my channel, I do talk about manga way more than I do with anime.
True. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even though I think that's also just due to laziness, because I'm like, well, it's easier to edit a manga video than an anime video. It's also safer because, like, sometimes a lot of my anime videos would be like copyright strike. I'm like, still happens with manga. It's not as frequent, and when it does happen, it feels really bullshitty. I'm like, what do you mean you're taking down my video? I'm advertising it for you.
Yeah, and that I've never understood. I think even Nintendo games have that problem, correct? That like Nintendo kind of like copyright.
I don't know. Fair use on YouTube is very bullshitty. I mean, at least I'm not making my living off of YouTube. I've unfortunately seen like cartoon reviewers who do like ungodly work producing like 2-hour video essays, and then they get a copyright strike. And I'm like, that is a person's livelihood. That you just fucked over. Like that's why I'm kind of glad I never became a pro YouTuber. I'm like, that would piss me off.
Yeah. Anyways, I think next time we will probably go through my top 10. Hopefully we'll see how that one goes.
Nah, man, it's got to be like a multi-part series. This has got to be like 10 parts.
10 parts. Yeah, we're gonna spend 2 hours talking about just one manga.
Yeah, because Hamza has Dragon Ball. We're gonna talk about Dragon Ball again.
Yeah, there's still some things I want to mention about Dragon. Probably my personal journey with Dragon
exactly.
Ball.
Yeah, because we kind of went through mine.
Yeah.
See, some of the series I didn't want to talk about too much because I didn't want to retread water because like Dora I've talked about, Chainsaw Man I've talked about, Devilman
Lucifer.
I've talked about, Kaneko Man. Lucifer.
Yeah.
The only ones I haven't talked about properly on my channel yet are Don and Yu-Gi-Oh! I haven't made videos on those two. I do plan on both, but everything else I've done videos for on the channel.
Got it. All right. I think, we're going to end it for today here.
Yeah, so Falcon Punchers, as always, keep on punching. Unfortunately, we can't compare our manga tastes in this video.
Yeah, you just gotta wait. You gotta wait like I think 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe. I'm not sure.
You gotta wait a couple more weeks.
Yeah,
but you could rate my taste here. You could be like, "Wow, Falcon, you have such great taste," or you could be like, "Wow, Falcon, your taste sucks." No Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, no Fist of the North Star, no Vagabond, no Berserk wasn't even on it. I was like, and I started.
See, I need to reread Berserk. When I read Berserk, I think I was a little too young for it, so I couldn't really absorb the meaning. I'm just like, it's a dude with a cool sword, and fucked up things happen to him. I feel like I'm supposed to get some depth out of it.
Don't worry, guys. I will fill in that void in my video because I actually have proper taste, unlike this like Shonen fanboy. Shaheen fanboy. I was about to say.
Mr. Shonen Punch. Listen, man,
Mhm.
I think I'll win some points because I'm in line to Kaniku, man. I'm part of that Kaniku greatness. I'm on the upper
Okay.
echelon of manga fan. I believe in friendship.
Okay. So Kaneko Man is you think you're better than me because you're correct.
Yeah, with those early chapters, I powered on through, and I was rewarded for it. I got
Got it.
a stinky wrestler man who just fights aliens and demons and in the ring.
All right. All right. So yeah, we'll see you next time with hopefully my list, and then you guys can compare and contrast and see. And who knows? Maybe my list will change, and it'll be better for the better once we do my.
You see, because now Hamza's sweating because he saw my list and he's like, "Oh shit." now he's gonna binge Vagabond so he can put it on his list. He's like, "Oh shit, gotta get like Vagabond, Berserk, Oyasumi Pun Pun."
Berserk's already there. That's like a little sneak peek. Yeah, Berserk's already there. Dragon Ball's already there. Like, yeah, I gotta put. I'm trying to think what else. I'll put in the Mobile Suit Gundam Origin. I want to read that. I'll put all that. I'll just binge that. That's in my library. I'll just borrow all of the books at the same time.
Hamza goes on my anime list, top 10 manga. Like, all right, cracks knuckles. Time to get reading.
Oh God, yeah. All right. Well, let's end it here.
Yeah, we said goodbye like 4 times already. So later, peace out.
Lisa, bye bye.